Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to the 18th of March, 368 days. Is that correct? 368 days later. Um, I know that this is a hard period of time for all of us, with also some joy and excitement that we're seeing some slivers of light, and that there are some areas that are reopening. And so all of that is really good news. It does not mean that our work is done, and it does not mean that LEC is going to stop advocating on behalf of our industry. So I want to make sure that everybody understands that our fight continues, and our fight will continue, and that we are here to support our industry and to build it up and to bring awareness and to make sure that we never, ever, ever get asked, who are you? What do you do? Ever again, especially by our members of Congress. So thank you to everybody. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your tenacity. And we're not going anywhere. And at this point, I'm going to kick it over to Sharon.
I'm muted. I'm not muted. Wow. Okay, great. So we're going to start. Andy, jump in here for 1 second. I'm sorry. We had major topics, but I think that's for the next.
We're going to start with a legislative update from Dwayne in a couple of various areas, and then we're going to talk about a social media campaign. That we're going to
All right. So yeah. So Dwayne, please bring us up to speed.
Speed. Let's go to speed. All right. I thought I'd just go through the list. It's been a pretty good week, and we've continued to stick the shovel in the dirt and get this a little more ferreted out here. So I'm gonna break from tradition and actually just read the list. So here's where we are with the meetings we've had recently, and these are the ones that are showing promise. Senator Paul from Kentucky. That meeting went well and is going to result in having a town hall with the member with hopefully 100 Kentucky events industry folks in the audience. So we're working on that. Kathleen's here from Kentucky and is heading that charge, and between her and Wendy and I, we're going to try to make that happen. He is important because he is the ranking minority member for the Senate Small Business Committee. In fact, all the people I'm going to talk to you about today in general are on either Senate or House Small Business, and that is where we're putting all of our focus. 100% of our focus, now that the unemployment measures are done and passed and cooked, have now switched to business relief. And that is coming in the form, again, it hasn't changed, of us getting the SVOG language amended to include the entire industry. So in addition to that, we have spoken with Senator Hickenlooper in Colorado, Senator Duckworth in Illinois, hard to say, Senator Schumer, of course. We're still waiting on some follow-up there as well. In the House, we have a lot of positive from Chairwoman Velazquez. She chairs the House Small Business Committee and is really the portal for us to get any of this through. What we're trying to do is work the top of the stack and the bottom of the stack. We're trying to get some newbies in there to get excited about putting a star on the sidewalk for themselves now that they're in the House of Representatives, and get them to champion us and go tap Chairwoman Velazquez on the shoulder. So we're making sure that she already knows the story. They're very interested in our amendment, and they are saying this is something we're hearing from more groups other than you as well. So there's very much an awareness that this needs to happen. It is not going to happen before it opens in all likelihood. They are now saying that the SVOG program itself will open in early April. So clearly there's a lot of issues with it. The SBA is trying to get it right. They've never run a grant program before. And Treasury has said, do not screw this one up like you did with the CARES Act and with the initial PPP rollout. That is why it's taking so Moving on, those two people I mentioned that we need to go tap Nydia Velasquez on the shoulder. We think we've identified a bipartisan team here, and we're working on making that a thing. That's happening through our lobbyists, and the people in state as well are going to be helping us with that. But it looks like Representative Salazar in Florida and Representative Delgado in New York. We've got a Republican and a Democrat that looks like we might be able to have them saying the same thing. Bipartisan is going to be critical to getting this done, particularly when it comes time to appropriate money to it. We're going to have a better chance at this if we, a much better, infinitely better chance if we have bipartisan support for the amendment. And then we have Rep. Craig that we've spoken with also in the House from Minnesota, who is on our team and we're following up with. Here's who else we're working on, and we intend to have meetings over the next couple of weeks with. Well, I'll tell you the ones that are confirmed. I did speak with Rep. Golden from Maine yesterday. We're speaking with Rep. Phillips from Minnesota. Rep. Crow from Colorado is in the bag. And we just this morning got a meeting with the one that we really want, the chairman on the Senate side, the majority chairman in small business, and that's Ben Cardin in Maryland. So we just scored that meeting for next week. That was a tough get, and we've been told many times you'll have a hard time getting this meeting, and we've been very vigorous in going after it. And I just found out minutes ago that we have it for Tuesday. The other people that we're keying on, and if you hear your state, you will probably be reached out to soon, especially if you have been identified as your state's coalition chapter government affair contact. We've really gotten it to where we want to be contacting the same one or two people in each of your states to have these conversations and make these local activations happen, where we're trying to talk to U.S. representatives and senators. So if you are that person, looking at you, Hyacinth, looking at you, Kat, you know who you are. When you hear your state, know that you're about to hear from us about another push to go get some more meetings. And these people are all on small business committees in both chambers. In the Senate, we want to work on Rubio out of Florida, Young out of Indiana. Actually, our lobbyist is working on getting that meeting. He is the guy who initially wrote the Restart Act way back. We're working on Cantwell in Washington. We now have Cardin in Maryland, so tick that box. Markey in Massachusetts. Thomas, if you're on, I'll be reaching out to you. Booker in New Jersey. Shaheen in New Hampshire. On the House side, we're closing in on some contacts, and Wendy can elaborate on this, on a partnership that we've recently made with the consumer show world. But Lutkemeyer, who is the ranking minority chair in the House in Missouri. So if you're from Missouri and you live in his district, stick it in the chat, let me know. Newman in Illinois, Schneider in Illinois, Hagedorn in Minnesota, Stauber in Minnesota, and Wendy's sitting right here, so she already knows she's got those tasks in front of her. Van Dyne in Texas, Williams in Texas, Peters in California, Chu in California, Kim in California. California has 3 people sitting on small business, and Donald's in Florida. What else? We have a stack of non-committee folks that we are rank and file people that we've also spoken with recently, and I'm just going to zoom through this list. The point we're making here is how much progress is happening. Negusing in Colorado, Gabarino in New York, Maliotakis in New York, Bonamici in Oregon, Harshbarger in Tennessee, Sinema in Arizona, Kelly in Arizona, Bennett in Colorado, Blumenthal in Connecticut, Klobuchar in Minnesota, Smith, Minnesota, Menendez, New York, Gillibrand, New York, Merkley in Oregon, Wyden in Oregon, and Cornyn in Texas. Those are folks that we will at some point tap their shoulders again. They're just not our focus over the next couple of weeks. You know, we back accidentally into a meeting with one of them, we'll absolutely do the right follow-up and take that meeting. But we're putting most of our energy into Small Business Committee. So thanks for listening to that whole list. The point here being, if you heard your state, raise your hand and or Let us know, let your coalition government affairs person know that you're willing to sit in on one of these meetings. We always want to have 1, 2, 3, sometimes more constituents. I did one with my own Senator Merkley here in Oregon last week where we had 16 business owners sitting on it from around the state. If it's a senator, we like to get broad representation in different geographic areas of the state, small towns, big towns if possible. So that's what the ask looks like when we finally come to you and say, hey, we're down the road. We really need to do some hard reach out and push for a meeting with your guy, your gal, your senator, your representative. That's what it's going to look like. And we want folks who are willing to tell their story in the Zoom call. Nothing hits home with your senators and Congress people better than this personal story of what's happened to you over the last year, what happened to your business, what have you gone through, what worked for you, and what fell short. Why did it fall short? How come you didn't go for the second round of PPP? So on and so forth. And all of this leads up to setting the stage for us saying, here's what we think the solution is. You wrote a really good act when you wrote SVOG. It is an excellent program, except for one thing. It spotted just a small portion of our industry, and all the people that support even those venues and those talent agents are left out. And then there's a whole other tranche where there's people that have nothing to do with live performance, people in corporate world that don't ever light a touring act or ever need a fixed stage or fixed audience seating. So that's how we tell that story in these meetings. Wendy and myself and Dewan and our two lobbyists, we're getting pretty good at it. We're practiced and we know the flow. It's now conversational. So when we reach out, please know that you won't be asked to lead it and organize it and understand all the talking points and all this. We're going to tell you all about it, but what we really need you to do is help us open the door in your own jurisdiction, be the constituent, and tell your story, and we'll lead you through the rest of it. So we're going to continue to be really vigorous about this. Outlook-wise, I'm sure everybody wants to talk about the ARP that just passed, and I'm happy to do that. We're going to do a new thing that we'll do. Ivory will have to check me on this in the chat, but we're going to try to do immediately after this meeting, every time we have it, this town hall that we're doing right now, for an hour afterwards, we're going to have open office hours with the Government Affairs Committee. So Wendy and myself, and when available, Dewan and Andy would be there to answer questions in a more conversational way, better than we can probably do through you having to type it out in Q&A. And you're also welcome to do that, by the way. But if you want to have something that's more back and forth, this is a great time to do it. I personally get a lot of emails, and I'm proud and honored to be the person that you trust to answer them. But I feel like sometimes it might take me too long, and you might want to have some back and forth and follow up. So we kind of figured this might be a good way to get through those. And maybe if I have 5 people that have the same question, and trust me, I do, especially about SVOG, this is a great way to put out some of those fires. Before and Ivory, I think, is putting in the link for that. So that'll be immediately following this for an hour. That's also going to be a regular thing. Lastly, I want to apologize for an error that we made. We read several interpretations of this targeted EIDL program that just got passed, including reading the bill itself. And we mistakenly thought that this was for every small business under 10 employees. Unfortunately, it is not. It is for those that are in certain disadvantaged communities and disadvantaged zip codes even. And there's now the FAQ on the SBA webpage will take you to a map to see if your business is in one of those. So I regret making that error. That was one that I read too many pundits and misinterpreted, and we went ahead and posted that out, and I apologize for that. Hopefully this clears it up, and it is, like a lot these days, disappointing that it wasn't that way. I myself would not be getting it as a result. So that I had to kind of take a shot of bourbon after that one. What am I forgetting, Wendy? Would you want to pick up anything I left out? Talk about the state letter.
Sure. So we have created a state letter where you can just simply fill in key points related to your state. So put in your state name and any, specific things you want to include. And then you can send that in to your local officials to try to work with them to get some carve outs, we're hoping, in the form of grants from the ARPA money that's coming in to the state levels. You can kind of handle it how you wish. In Minnesota, what I'm doing is I'm going through the entire Minnesota state legislature right now and to try to identify who I think will be the best champions and finding people that have those relationships and helping me open the door to those conversations. I've also already had a meeting with our governor and commissioner of economic department. So those are key people in the conversation. And I can tell you from the state of Minnesota standpoint, we're probably 2 to 4 weeks out before they're even starting to think about how this money is going to be divvied up. At least that's what they're telling me, because there's a process they have to get in place for getting proposals in for grants and then determining how they're going to identify which ones actually get the funding. So encourage you to kind of start those conversations now. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to our team.
Throwing on there that the method that you get this out in is entirely up to you. If you have a petition mechanism that you've used in the past for this sort of thing with your state house and with your governor's office, go for it. If you'd rather do it as a letter writing campaign through your coalition members and other colleagues in the industry, great. The point of the letter is hey, we see our state's going to get a tranche of money in the billions of dollars that just came out of the ARPA asset pack. And we know that it's intended for states to use it as needed to help offset economic disaster from this pandemic. We think we have a pretty good idea what might help there. And that's basically what the letter is saying. And this is something that we cranked out just recently when we figured out, because everyone again told us that this state money was pretty well baked and it was going to be for infrastructure and education and vaccine distribution, saying nothing about small business. And then lo and behold, the bill came out and it didn't say that at all. And so now, just in the last 2 days, even the pundits we were listening to were saying, oh man, we were wrong. This is much more general than that. And it is up to the states to figure out what the best way to offset economic impact of the pandemic really is. So this is your chance in your state to jump on this. Either if you have a great relationship with the officials and you know that the letter will get read just by sending it once, then send it, get it done, follow up, ask for a meeting about it. In fact, the letter distinctly says, here's my phone number. I want to talk to you more about this. So do be aggressive, I guess is the word for it. Do be insistent that this is a real prescient problem that needs help, and this is and we haven't gotten any federally. Here's your shot. So I think that's it on the government affairs side, Sharon. Unless Wendy, did I forget anything? Okay.
So Dwayne, there's a few quick questions. A bunch of folks are saying that in their state they're willing to either join a meeting or they would have updates. Where do you want to direct those folks to communicate?
Could you please email GOVAFF at liveeventscoalition.org. Email your contact information and any details about any breakthrough you've had or lead you've had or conversations you've had, and we'll figure out where to point it, and we'll put our gloves on and get to work.
So
Awesome.
We're getting a couple notes in the chat that there's getting some bounce backs on that address, Dwayne. So we'll sort through that. Get back to everybody.
Ivory, can you Oh, you did.
Yeah, it's out there, but people are trying it and they're getting bounce back. So we'll sort through that.
Okay. All right. For today, send it to me directly. I would rather it get through somewhere. So D Thomas at liveeventscoalition.org.
Or Ivory for now, yeah, till we unblock that one. We'll look into that.
So sorry.
And then there's two questions about the state letter. How would they get a copy of that?
Same. Email Ivory. We'll make sure it's in your hands. And I believe it's gone out to state coalition leadership 2 days ago. No, Friday. it went out.
Yeah, so state leadership or directly to us. And then this is a really good question. As states start to reopen, how will this affect or hinder members of Congress from seeing our need? Do you think that they will be back to normal and no longer need relief, and somehow can manage the debt we have incurred over the past year? So how does it change the conversation?
It's a great question, and this is something that we're strategizing on all the time right now. It is potentially a big problem. In fact, as of a week ago, my feeling was that we needed to go for the jugular and now with the amendment, even before SBA finishes writing the rules for SVOG. We've been warned away by several people on the Hill, including analysts and our own lobbyists and some other lobbyists that we've been talking to with other organizations that we're now partnering with. And all have said, you are going to infuriate them if you do this, and it won't get done. So we're backing off and letting it happen. Nevertheless, the urgency of communicating our need beyond reopening is now with us. So there's a couple of things. We're kind of trying to outrace the train a little bit in making sure that the sense of Congress is that we need to help these people before they can see everything's back to normal, or they think everything's back to normal. So it won't be. We all know that. Folks who do the wedding trade may have a pretty good summer in some states, in a lot of states. In some states, you might see some corporate come back in the fall. By and large, it depends on who you talk to, but we all know it's not going to be normal until 22, and maybe even not right away in 22. So the conversation will start to change around, yeah, we're open, but here are the issues. Right now, I'm already including verbiage like in the state letter, for instance. Even with reopening, it takes months to plan these events, and people need to be confident to buy the ticket and accept the invite and all these other things. So that language is already happening, that we're presupposing that there will be a general opinion that we don't need any more help because we're open. The next thing we do after that, God forbid we're still arguing this argument then, but let's say we're at the end of the summer. I can't believe I even said that, because that better not happen. And still looking, then it becomes retroactive. The entire conversation becomes, you owe me, man. You shut me down. I'm deep in debt. And we start talking about things like forgiveness of EIDL loans and things like that. I hope to God it doesn't come to that. And I hope I didn't just jinx it. But that's my best take on it, is make sure they know reopening doesn't mean what they think it means. It's not like a restaurant where you hang an open sign, hire a crew, and go provision. And you should be good to go 4 or 5 days, maybe a week at the longest, to get back open if you're a restaurant. That's not us. Make sure they know that. Also, when I'm done blathering here, I am going to throw that state letter into a Google Doc and put a link for that in the chat. So I'll take a few minutes to do that here.
Great. So is there anything else, Dwayne? Are you? Nope.
I'm good. Any other questions? All right.
I don't see any questions coming through. We're going to pass it on to Whitney, who's going to update us on the social media. Oh, do you want to? We'll tackle that after.
Hello?
Whitney, are you there?
Can you hear me? Yep.
Yeah. I'll try to share the screen as you're talking to once I pull it up.
Okay, thank you so much. Hello, everyone. If you haven't seen or aren't following us on social media platforms, we have launched a campaign by the name of Pause that marks, the year of us being shut down, and to support the advocacy efforts that GR is doing. So to access any of those assets, whether that's photos, video, and copy, so we created copy and hashtags for you to use when you're reposting, and just guidelines. So, making sure that you're tagging your local member of Congress, or even some of those members that Dwayne mentioned that we're trying to get in front of. Definitely want everyone to participate and share those with your network. So all of those assets and guidelines can be found on our website under the resources tab, and that'll take you to your respective, whatever you're looking for. So whether that's just pictures, and I made sure that there's copies in 1080 by 1080 for just Instagram, for instance, or Facebook posting or story format. So there's that. If there's anything that you might need that you're not seeing or you have questions about, you can contact myself. My email, I'll say it slowly, is wwatson@liveeventscoalition.org. And yeah, we'll really love your participation to continue and get a great impact for this campaign. So.
Thank you, Whitney. Andy, do you want to tackle the question in there, or are we letting?
Yeah, this one might be for you, Dwayne. The American Recovery Act. Have you been hearing anything about that? Are you still there? Or Wendy, if you know.
Sorry. The American Recovery Act is the next piece, and it is not really filled in next. It is not really filled in at all. So right now there's about 2 weeks left of session, and then they're going to be on recess. And what they're dealing with mostly is nominations, confirmations. The House is tootling around as they do on several smaller things. There are a lot of subcommittee meetings and so forth, hearings and so forth, but it has not started to really be fleshed out yet. So I don't have much information.
Got it. Thank you.
The Q&A is still open. If there's any more questions, not just about legislative, if you have any questions in general, please put it in the Q&A. And if we don't get any questions, the link to the social media is on the Live Events Coalition website under resources, and it says paused campaign. Again, if you want to get the paused campaign resources, go to liveeventscoalition.org, and under resources, you will see hashtag paused campaign.
I just posted it as well.
It's also in the newsletter.
There you go. Have the unions, have any of the unions been involved with what's happened with, I guess, with the, more specifically involved with what, Will, what are you asking with the bill coming out, or does that make sense to anyone?
I think they're asking, like, what is IATSE doing?
Right.
In
Is
terms
that,
of the,
Andy, have you been in touch with them as it relates to the ECA group?
they're not part of the ECA group, I don't believe, right, Dwayne?
No, no, they're not. I talk a fair amount with IATSE people, haven't that much. They've been the last couple of weeks. The ones I've talked to have been involved with case pushes and stuff for the 1 year anniversary, I guess we call it, of shutdown. So I know that that's where their heads were at the last couple of weeks. Before that, of course, it was just, seeing PUA get extended, which it did. But that's been most of my conversations with the IA folks.
And then last question here, Dwayne, would you want any member of the LEC to submit that letter to the state, or prefer state leadership? Does it matter?
I think it's smartest if you guys go through leadership in your coalition and make sure someone's in charge of the strategy in state. What you don't want to see happen is have it be fluttery and come in from all corners and not be very structured or organized. I mean, to the extent that you're putting an idea into their head, sure, all chat in the vacuum is good. That said, the real ask here, and if it really gets done, at some point they have to come back to what they consider an industry organization to find out, well, how do we get this to you? How do we communicate this to you? Who are you? And you want that central clearinghouse of information to be someone who can be most equipped to get it done. It doesn't mean it's not you, but we don't want 5 people trying to do it. Or you don't want 5 people trying to do it because it's gonna be a mess and it'll never happen. They will be bombarded by these requests and ideas as to what to do with this money. They will have thousands of them. So ours has to bubble to the top by being clear and concise and looking from the very beginning like it's from an organization that knows of what they speak. And if you look cluttered and unorganized, that won't help. So I suggest make sure you have conversations before you take it upon yourself to do it, to make sure that it's a coordinated effort. And I just put that link to the letter in the chat. So there it is. Oh, wait, no, I didn't. Let's do that again. Let's put it to everybody, not just the panelists. Sorry, folks. Panelists and attendees, and it's in. Okay. Anything else?
If you have any questions, now's the time.
And in 20 minutes, we're doing open office hours, so feel free to grab that link out of the chat. Maybe drop it back in, Ivory, so people don't have to hunt for it. And Wendy and I will be there. Andy, are you in on this one?
I won't be able to make it today.
Gotcha. We will answer questions and have more face-to-face conversation starting at 1 o'clock Pacific, 4 o'clock Eastern, about 20 minutes from now.
Nancy, are you ready to wrap us up? Is Nancy still with us?
I think she had to go. She's doing some contract thing with her house, so I don't think she's here.
So Andy, you wrap us up today.
All right, cool. Well, thanks everybody for joining. Yeah, huge movement on the government affairs side. Dwayne's done an amazing job at leading that division of the LEC forward. Thank you everyone for being part of that and for being willing to fight for an industry that for a long time has been behind the shadows of what we do. And so it's really important that we maintain an amazing voice, a loud voice as we move forward. We're not out of this yet, and even as things get better, the damage to our industry is going to be lasting into the years. So we're certainly not done, and there's a number of things in front of us. So thank you all for being members of the LEC and for all the work that you do. And hope you guys have a great week, and try to get the vaccine if you guys can. I think it's going to become more and more available to our industry as we go forward. So I know here in Colorado, it's tomorrow. So it's pretty cool. But thanks everybody, and have a great week. We'll see you soon.
Bye-bye, everyone.